Hey everybody, this is Brian Foshee. I'm the president of Visual South, and I'm joined by Rich Lagoy. Rich is the product director for Visual ERP at Infor. Hey Rich, how are you?
Great, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. We wanted to put together a video for folks to talk about Visual 11. And for those of you that don't know, Visual 11 is the latest release of Visual ERP. And there's a lot of things that have been put into the product. We're not going to go through all of those in this video. We're really just going to talk about some of the highlights and a couple of other things as it relates to that. So there's all sorts of content out there where you can get, really detailed about what's in the product. But we're not going to cover those today. We're really just going to give you a flavor of what the big things are in the product. And so Rich and I thought we would put together a video for people to learn a little bit more about those things. So before we hop into actual functionality, thought we would talk a little bit about just some of the things that drive how we're investing in the product, how Infor is investing in the product. And get your take on those things, Rich. And I know one of those things is, sort of just taking a look at the market and what's out there. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys go about that?
Sure, exactly. Well, like you said, really the market, right? You're always looking at the market. So things like AI, certainly at the top of the list, which is being driven by the market. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I think, later.
Yeah.
But certainly it's staying close to our roots, what Visual is all about, right? It's really manufacturing centric, around scheduling, production automation. We came out with shop floor, which is our next iteration of shop floor automation. We'll hit on that a little bit. I think I mentioned scheduling. So it's, for the make to order, engineer to order, job shop, configure to order manufacturing company in the SMB market. So, that's driver number one. And then certainly our customers, right? A big driver, a big influencer of what it is that we put into the product. Those come in through our enhancement suggestion system, as you know. We have a number of local user group meetings that I attend, as well as our channel partner and other Inforians throughout the year around the country. We have Visual Focus coming up in February. Right. That we get input from that. So certainly that technology, right? I mentioned AI, REST API. So building a REST API layer, which again is part of the roadmap. Some of the things that we've delivered also in 11. And then really is quick to value, right? Where you can take Visual, it's intuitive, it's easy, and so therefore you can realize value relatively quickly with this product. So those really the things that we're focused on that drive the product.
Yeah, and it's funny. I always, over the years, people have said, where does Visual fit? And my answer to that is typically if you're managing a work order, it doesn't matter if you're configure to order, make to order, engineer to order. That Visual is has a lot of strength for somebody like that, and it crosses all different industries, right? I mean, if you're managing a work order, Visual has tools that can help you for sure. And one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit, a lot of people may not realize that they can put in enhancement requests, right? And I've seen this over the years too, where it's not like those things are not being looked at. They actually are being looked at and taken into consideration, and it's one of the drivers for the development, because you can do all of your research and take all of your inputs, but it's really important to hear from the customers about specifically what they're asking for from a visual perspective. And not everybody watching this would know necessarily how to put that in. And so an enhancement request is part of the support portal. And you can go in and put those enhancement requests in so that you guys can evaluate them and potentially put them in the product, right?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you go right into concierge, right? Concierge is kind of that 360 view of support. You can
Right.
get to support to open a case number. You can go to the download center. You can look at release highlights, the product life cycle, and a number of other things. And then there's an option for enhancements. That's the same place that I go when I'm looking at enhancements for review. In fact, I've been in there the last couple of weeks because development has been focused on some what I call big ticket items.
Right.
AI being one, the REST API, the adoption of Infor IDS with CRM. While they're working on those big projects, which will go through, and I'm probably jumping ahead of myself here, but these will go through this year. Those big items development will be working on, but we're starting to filter in now some of these user enhancements. So I've queued up a number of those. So I've been in the enhancement system over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm building a list in defining those and specking them out so that development is never without something to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, I know you mentioned the user conference. You're at the user conference, and I've witnessed many a conversation of customers. You're very accessible. Customers come up to you, share their experience, share, hey, this is what I think could be improved. All of those sorts of things have influence on the direction of the product. And so this is not a video about visual focus, but I just want to let people know that, you know, that's one of the advantages of attending is being able to spend time with you and share that feedback in addition to putting in an enhancement request because, you know, again, you may not know what people are struggling with unless they share it, right?
I don't think there's a user group meeting that I go to that I don't come back with at least one thing that makes it into the product or it helps with what we're currently working on. Right. And I know I keep bringing up AI, but I was at 2 local user group meetings within the last couple of months. And just to learn what customers are already doing on their own.
Right.
With AI, right? And bringing AI in. So it helps me when I'm here with, you know, talking to the development team and what we're doing with AI, because there's a number of different things that we're doing. You know, that feedback is valuable.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so I thought now we might transition to talking a little bit more about 11. We, you know, here at Visual South, we have people upgrading to it pretty frequently. It's been out for a little bit now, and there's, I mean, I think we've got like 50 plus enhancements in there. But one of them that we wanted to highlight was the whole predictive capacity planning with what if work orders. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this really is from the voice of the customer. I can think of 2 specific customers that one has been a long time user of the visual product going back to, you know, the 1990 timeframe, just after the product was introduced to the market. They use the schedule. I mean, that's why they bought the solution, right? At the time, they were at about 72% on-time delivery. They implemented visual, and you know, ever since they've been at 98% plus on-time delivery. But one of the things that they do is they want to predict what's happening 6 months to a year out. Orders that they know they're going to get. They're just not finalized yet, right? There's a lot of work that needs to go into landing these contracts because a lot of them are with space and energy and these things, aerospace and defense, and these things take some time. They know they'll get them. Same with the other customer. So what this does is it allows you what we're calling what if work orders, is the ability to flag a work order and start creating that order, defining it, right, for capacity purposes, for material purposes, but
Mhm.
it has an unreleased status.
Okay.
As you know, up until now, up until 11, an unreleased work order does not get scheduled,
Right.
right? Only released and firmed. This provides the ability to treat an unreleased work order just like it was a firmed and released order. So you're preserving capacity. So what you can do is say, what if I were to win some of this business? And you can put a probability on those work orders
Okay.
as to
Yeah.
what is your probability. And then you can include them in the scheduler run, and it
Right.
will treat them like other work orders. But the nice thing that you can do is once you do that, you can take that schedule
Hmm.
and you can output to Excel.
Okay.
So you have your in-house work orders, your what if work orders, and
Right.
all of your different time buckets. How many hours per day in this resource you utilize, and then you can pivot on that. So you can graphically see every resource, every work cell, what's my in-house load, and if I were to win this business, what's that going to do to my capacity in this area, right? So you can start planning. Am I going to need to put overtime? Am I going to need to have a second shift? Can I offload this to another machine? The
Yeah.
other thing that it does is it gives you the ability to see resources that are underutilized. Where can I sell more time?
Right.
Right. So you can do it for that if you really want to predict out a year, right? So you can
Right.
use it for that. Or if you just want to use it for those one or two orders that you know you're going to get, that you just want to lock them in place, you can do that. You win the business, all you have to do is you have to flip a switch on that work order, and now you firm it up and it's now a firmed work order,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's very simple to use. You can get creative on how you can use that, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so I think that is going to be very helpful. Well, the reception I've received so far going out to the local user group meetings, right? Um, People can see the potential in their
Right.
business of utilizing that.
That's great. That's great. And then also sort of in the same vein, we have prioritized operations now. Um, so this is basically where, well, I'll let you.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think this one here, everyone can use this one,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So the scheduler, will schedule based on the capacity that you put in the resources and the precision of your operations, the estimates you give it. And then
Right.
it looks at everything, right? You run the scheduler and it schedules based on, you know, due date and backward schedule, forward schedule, hardware. I won't get into the details there. And it projects this is what you should be working on in this order. And as we all know, the reality on the shop floor, somebody's going to look at that output and say, I can't run that first job because the fixture, I don't have the program from engineering, I'm missing a key component material that I might need, or I have a problem defect with it, right? There's all those variables.
Yeah. Murphy.
So you want to prioritize, or there's a priority work order. You know what? I don't care what the schedule says. I need you to get through this order out, right? All those reasons.
Right.
So now what you can do is within shop floor, right? This is the feature of shop floor where you can now just drag and drop your operations in the sequence you want, and then you can prioritize. Now, generally, you're going to prioritize one or two from the list, right? I
Right.
want you to work on these two, or you want to group them together, right? Maybe it's a plate of steel, and you're going to cut these three jobs out of that plate of steel, so you're going to group them together. The beauty is that when you run the scheduler, the prioritized operations will always be scheduled first, and
Okay.
then everything else around that. We haven't had that in the system until Visual 11. So it really allows you to fine tune the scheduler to what really is happening on the shop floor, and then everything else schedules around it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, you hear that sometimes where people, they want to optimize the setup or something like that and make sure that they, if they're going to go to the trouble, they want to run everything that they can uh, that requires that. And
for efficiency reasons, right? Everybody has their reasons of why they want to prioritize, and they want the scheduler to keep in those sequence and then just push everything else around it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that sounds good. And you'd mentioned shop floor a couple of times. You're talking about shop floor mobile, and there's that's another thing here that got some attention in 11. We're talking about IDS, and so tell me a little bit about that. What's IDS?
Yeah, so two things with shop floor. One is we're moving away from the current APIs to REST APIs.
Okay.
Right. REST APIs are more current technology. It'll allow our channel partners, our customers, our solution providers to leverage those for integration purposes, right? So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So we did that for shop floor, right? So everything in shop floor goes through the REST API layer. Right. Okay. So if you're a customer and you want to create a form that's a little different than our shop floor form for transacting material or, transferring material, you can utilize the APIs to do that, right? Because that's how we do it.
Gotcha.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is a whole new user interface, utilizing what we call the Infor design system. Right. Look and feel, right? So that if you're in shop floor or you're in another Infor product, the look and feel is the same. The menu structure, right? You can create different color themes. So you can have the light mode, you can have the dark mode, you can have contrast, different color, right? Depending upon your preference, your environment, what works best for you, your eye, your personal own preference, right? So there's that, but then there's all the controls. So the grid controls. The grid controls in 11 are much more user-friendly than the grid controls in the previous version of shop floor. And what I mean by that is you can easily move the columns in the order that you want them. You can also, every column is filterable. Right. So I can say, you know what, give me all of this customer's orders within the schedule. Give me, if you use user-defined fields, and let's see, a color is an attribute. You want to group colors together, right? You could do that on a user-defined field. Operation types. So various ways of filtering the schedule make it easier. Your configuration of the grids and so on. So it's just overall, it's pretty, and it's
you think of somebody using this or typically using it on a tablet, and they want to see things quickly. They've got questions that they want answered pretty quickly, and it sounds like you've got the ability to at least get to that information a little bit quicker than in the previous version, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So and shop floor mobile, I know that's been quite a leap forward, from the old days of some of the things that we had. Still work great, but has really taken a step forward from a mobility perspective and a user experience perspective. We're seeing a lot of customers adopt shop floor for sure. So you mentioned REST API. I mean, I know that's, if we talk about your focus here currently, I know that you mentioned the REST APIs are a focus at this point. Is it just in shop floor mobile, or are there other places that we're doing that? Or tell me a little bit more about that.
Yep. So just to recap, so the things we just talked about were Visual 11. We released, as you mentioned, Visual 11 came out right around Visual Focus last year, right? Yep. So it was, in fact, it was when we were at Visual Focus, Visual 11 came out. So it's relatively new. That was October of last year timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
So development now, so the REST APIs, we're in the process of moving Visual CRM to the IDS adoption. So
Yeah.
we're adopting a look and feel very much like shop floor. The menu
Gotcha.
system, the grids, right? The look and feel. Now, CRM is more of a desktop application. There's a lot more feature functionality. So
Right.
that's where they'll be different, but the same look and feel between
Yeah.
the two.
Yeah.
So that's all web, right? It's using IDS. Um, CRM never had APIs, right? It was a direct, it actually had what we use COM objects, but so we're redoing that, and it's going to be all REST APIs for the CRM schema.
Gotcha.
So
Right.
that's a lot of that work is done. It's in development. We plan on releasing the core CRM, contact center, sales, right? And we'll have the email integration and so on, that piece by the end of the year with the REST API layer underneath that, right? So now you have the shop floor REST APIs, you have the CRM, but then development's working on all of the APIs for core visual.
Okay.
Right. So anything from, the core documents to your actual big business logic, right? Entering a sales order, entering a work order, entering a shipment, right? So now you can utilize those, right? You want to integrate into Visual to push a work order in, push a
Yep.
sales order in, right? So you'll have the REST APIs for that. That's what we're working on. Again, that's something we're looking to release at the end of this year as well. It'll all be built atop Visual 11, so it's not going to change. We're not going to a Visual 12. It's
Right.
all just part of Visual 11.
Right. There'll eventually be a Visual 12, just not for
Exactly. Right. Well, the only reason I bring that up is as you know, and as a lot of our customers know, right? We come out with the major version,
right.
11. A big part of that is to adopt the technology so that we can support SQL Server, the latest version of SQL Server, Oracle, and so on, right? We also add the enhancements that we just talked about. But
Exactly.
then we want to deliver more enhancements to that version
Right.
before we jump to the next version,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody can move that fast. So I just wanted to make that point of saying some of these things that we're talking, the CRM and the additional API, it's all on top of the 11 level. So if
You
you're
don't
planning right now to move from 9 to 11, I don't want you to think, oh, wait a minute, now I'm going to move to 12. No, it's on.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. That makes sense. And yeah. I mean, well, that's why we have the dot releases as we go along. So I want to come back to AI, but first I want to just talk about a little bit about IQM, some of the things you're doing there, and I want to be sensitive to using acronyms that people may not know what IQM is. So maybe before you talk about that, let us know what IQM is.
Sure. So IQM, Infor Quality Management. For those customers that have been around for a while, it's the former Visual Quality,
Right.
which was rewritten, 12 years ago now, anyways, on the Mongoose platform, right? It's all web-based.
Yep.
Now called Infor Quality Management. It went in that direction so that other Infor products could adopt the quality solution. So what we're working on now, in fact, some of the enhancements we're working on now are for integration into some of the other ERPs, Infor ERPs. But for Visual, we're working on one is building what I'll call the in-process dashboard for those quality tests that happen, to your work order, right?
Right.
Along that process. Currently, there's a light integration. What this would do is it would create very similar to your receiving inspection, where you have a queue, right? You receive something in that needs to be inspected. It builds a queue inside of IQM. You can see that queue, and that's where you begin your inspection process to build that same type of integration for the in process. So you have that same type of queue of things that need to be inspected.
Gotcha.
And then that will the result of that would push that data back into Visual to update, inside of Visual.
That the inspection's been complete or it failed or whatever to update the work order that drove it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. Now that's the piece we're working on now. What we haven't started yet, but it's on the roadmap, is multiple dispositions. So you receive a product in from a supplier, 10 are good, 5 are bad. What do I do? Right. So to really give you a table when it comes to dispositions versus currently it's just a tab where you write into what you need to do. This would be more of a definitive table that would then send that information back.
Right. Okay. And then also there's been some enhancement requests based on the financial side of Visual as well. That was an area you might be focusing on.
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned, I'm looking at the enhancement suggestions now. I've been doing that over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And that's been my focus. Is the list that I'm building is focusing on primarily the finance side of the solution. Reason for that is when we were at Focus last year, that was a question that came up a few times, which is, this is great, the scheduling and the shop floor and the manufacturing side, but what are you doing for some of us finance folks, right? Now, don't get me wrong, we did add some nice financial enhancements in 11 as part of that group of 50, but I wanted to make sure that we do address, that area of the solution as well. So.
And last but not least, AI. I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, but we're seeing it show up more and more. People talking about it more and more, learning more and more. So tell me a little bit about what's going on in regards to AI.
Sure. With AI, that's a good question. And I think I'm going to kind of talk about this relative to Infor. I think even more than just visual. We're all working together on this one, right? We want to leverage what the collective group at Infor is building across the various products. Some may be applicable to visual, some may not. Depends, right? There's a lot of different things. So to summarize what we've done so far, and I don't have a delivery date necessarily on this.
Understood.
But we're active in development doing this. So one thing that we did do is we built a framework within the visual world, right? And to prototype how this might work for our customers, right? And that would be to build a framework that we teach it the database schema.
Right.
So that you could utilize OpenAI. Gotcha. Right? If a customer license OpenAI, then you just license OpenAI. Our framework has been taught. We've taught the schema, so you could do things like give me a list of all parts with a negative on hand. Right? Yeah. You can talk to it. You can type it in just like you would ChatGPT. Right?
Yep.
Give me a list of invoices that are older than 90 days.
Yep.
Right? And just come back and again, right? We already built that. We've proven it out. We can do that. But is that what customers really want at the end of the day? We've also built it so you can, do like a ChatGPT where we source, filter through the documentation. How do I enter trace information inside of Visual?
Right.
Rather than having to go to an index and scan it, it'll just come back and say, oh, in Visual, you do this, right? So we've already done that. We've proven it out. Where we go with that at this point, I don't know it, right? The other piece really is more of a predictive AI. And this is where we would leverage Infor Gen AI.
Right.
And the data lake. And that would be more of a business case or even an agent maybe where you would have it maybe read your invoices and do a 3-way match.
Gotcha.
Right? Because you can use AI for that as an AI agent, or you have Gen AI doing more of a predictive of, reducing your cycle time for a given product, where reading the data, and based on that, how do you do that? So we're still investigating. We're actually, I mentioned this to you in a previous conversation about looking for some customers with a business case that we can work with them to see if we can create an AI model to help them solve that business case.
Yeah. That's great. That's exciting stuff. And, I think it reminds me of other technologies in the past where, you sort of aren't 100% sure how, but you use it in other parts of your life. And why can't you use it with your ERP and interact with it like you do in other ways, in other places in your life, right? And it's really amazing some of the stuff that some of the ideas that are being driven by AI. And I mean, interacting with your data by asking it, hey, I'd like this information, and it giving it back to you seems a little bit odd to us now. It's probably less odd than it was 12 months ago. But 2 years from now, it's going to be, of course, you can do that. And it's really amazing what doors it may open for everybody, for sure.
Well, you're right. And we're going to keep, like I said, I don't know. We're going to deliver it when it makes sense to deliver it. We want to do it right. And we're all on this journey inside of Infor, as I mentioned. It's not just a visual journey. It's right. Some of our other ERPs, we're all working together. So we'll figure out when is the right time, what's the right solution for the market, and, listening to our customers' needs. And as I mentioned, working with our customers to prove it out, to help solve some business case.
Yeah. So, if any of our customers are watching or listening to this and you're interested in maybe taking that journey, reach out to me and see if we can get you connected with Rich. And so basically that's the ground that we wanted to cover in this video. From a Visual South perspective, we have, if you go to our website, we'll have a link embedded into this video. We have an entire portal set aside for people who are interested in an upgrade. We have all of the information that you might want about what the release notes are, what the highlights are, what the hardware requirements are, what the compatibility is, all of the things that you have to take into consideration whenever you're planning one of these upgrades. And if you want our help, we have an entire questionnaire where we're gathering information about your environment, because everybody's environment is different. And so that way we can understand it and help you understand what it would take for us to assist in it if that's something that you wanted to do. And so, I always encourage people to go there because it's a great place to get a lot of information. If you're not a fill out a form kind of person, just reach out to us from that portal and say, I'd like to talk to somebody. We've got a little checkbox there that says, I'd like to talk to somebody before I fill anything out. And one of our team members will reach out to you and start a conversation. So hopefully this video will be helpful to people wanting to get a better idea of what's in 11, and also a little sneak peek into what's coming in 11 and beyond. So I think we'll end it there, Rich, unless you have anything else to add.
No, we just welcome your input.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Whether it's through the enhancements or whether it's at our local user group meetings, and hopefully we'll see at Visual Focus, and right, it's about working together, and we learn from our customers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't know everything, so we welcome the input.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you, Rich. Really appreciate your time, and I will see you at Visual Focus. So.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Brian.